won't you lead me to rest. Oh Lord, won't you lead me to rest.
Greetings everyone. Pastor Nathan of Grace Lutheran Church back again with another edition of the Semicon vids for this upcoming 22nd Sunday after Pentecost, which lands on November 1st, 2020. And those of you who are well versed with the liturgical church calendar, you'll know that November 1st every year is All Saints' Day, which is the day after Halloween, of course, or I should say Halloween is the day before All Saints' Day. And November 1st is a Sunday this year, so it isn't every year that we actually get to celebrate All Saints' Day on All Saints Sunday. It isn't always that November 1st lands on Sunday, only, whenever the calendar lines up, which is every whatever so years, I don't know, I guess, whatever it is. I don't want to do the math right now. But every so years, we'll get it on the actual day, and this year we get that, so it's kind of a treat. But, like I said, for Thanksgiving, there are no semi-continuous readings for All Saints Sunday texts, like there weren't for Thanksgiving, and there won't, and for Reformation, I think it was. So it just happens that way, that with these optional festivals and stuff, we don't get the texts, semi-continuous texts for those optional days, because they'll kind of throw off the whole kind of map kind of thing. But there are semi-continuous readings for the 22nd Sunday after Pentecost, which just happens to be on All Saints Day. So those are the texts we're going to go over today in this video. But just to let you know, just so you're aware, the gospel for the 22nd Sunday after Pentecost is Matthew chapter 23, verses 1 to 12, where Jesus talks about the hypocrisy of the Pharisees, how they know their stuff, listen to what they say, but don't do what they do, because they're really full of themselves and want to kind of show off and do all this kind of stuff. So follow their wisdom, but don't follow their humility or lack thereof. And that's what the gospel is about. And the semi-continuous readings for this 22nd Sunday after Pentecost is Joshua chapter 3, verses 1 to 17. And semi-continuous psalm is Psalm 107, verses 1 to 7 and 33 to 37. Before we get into that, we'll start with a word of prayer. The Lord be with you. Let's pray. Most astounding God, you lead us through deserts and grant us safe crossings. You save us from trouble and deliver us from distress. You satisfy our hunger and quench our thirst with righteousness and mercy. When we lose our way, you pull us back to you and overwhelm us with love. All honor and glory are yours, our Master, our Teacher, our friend. Amen. So quick recap, really fast, before my kids come home. I think they actually just got home before they come bursting in. So God had promised the Israelites this land. They were enslaved because they grew to be such a great big nation, and Moses came, saved them from Egyptians who enslaved them, led them through the desert for a while, and last week we saw God disallowed Moses from entering this promised land, which he was working 40 some odd years to get the people to. And so Moses had a successor, Joshua, who is now going to lead the people into the promised land. And it's a big thing. I mean, after 40 years, you imagine, it wasn't just Moses that didn't make it into the promised land. There'll be a whole generation of people that didn't make it into the promised land. And this is kind of the new generation. People as old as 40 years old making it into a permanent home for the first time. And so that's what this one is about. This is, again, Joshua chapter 3, verses 7 to 17. The Lord said to Joshua, "This day I'll begin to exalt you in the sight of all Israel, so that they may know that I'll be with you as I was with Moses. You're the one who shall command the priests who bear the ark of the covenant. When you come to the edge of the waters of the Jordan, you shall stand still in the Jordan. Joshua then said to the Israelites, Draw near and hear the words of the Lord your God. Joshua said, By this you shall know that among you is the living God, who without fail will drive out from before you the Canaanites, Hittites, Hivites, Perizzites, Girgashites, Amorites, and Jebusites. The ark of the covenant of the Lord of all the earth is going to pass before you into the Jordan. Now select 12 men from the tribes of Israel, one from each tribe. When the soles of the feet of the priests who bear the ark of the Lord of all the earth, rest in the waters of the Jordan, the waters of the Jordan flowing from above shall be cut off, and they shall stand in a single heap. When the people set out from their tents to cross over the Jordan, the priests bearing the ark of the covenant were in front of the people. Now the Jordan overflows all its banks throughout the time of harvest. So when those who bore the ark had come to the Jordan, the feet of the priests bearing the ark were dipped in the edge of the water. The waters flowing from above stood still, rising up in a single heap far off at Adam, at Adam, the city that is beside Zarethan, while those flowing toward the Sea of Arabah, the Dead Sea, were wholly cut off. Then the people crossed over opposite Jericho. While all Israel were crossing over on dry ground, the priests who bore the ark of the covenant of the Lord stood on dry ground in the middle of the Jordan until the entire nation finished crossing over the Jordan. The word of the Lord. And the psalm again is Psalm 107, 1 to 7, and then 33 to 37. This is Psalm 107. Give thanks to the Lord, for the Lord is good, for God's mercy endures forever. Let the redeemed of the Lord proclaim that God redeemed them from the hand of the foe, gathering them in from the lands. From the east and from the west and from the north and from the south, some wandered in desert wastes. They found no path to a city where they might dwell. They were hungry and thirsty. Their spirits languished within them. Then in their trouble they cried to the Lord, and you delivered them from their distress. You led them on a straight path to go to a city where they might dwell. You change rivers into deserts and water springs into thirsty ground. Fruitful land into salty waste because of the wickedness of those who dwell there. You change deserts into pools of water and dry land into water springs. You settle the hungry there, and they establish a city to dwell in. They sow fields and plant vineyards and bring in a fruitful harvest. Psalm 107. So these texts, just like how it was for Reformation and Thanksgiving, these semi-continuous texts are actually pretty good for that festival day. Think about Joshua, All Saints Day that's coming up. We talk about those that we've loved and lost, those that we remember, those that we honor for the role that they played in our lives. And one of the very common, almost always every funeral that I preach at, I talk about this exactly, how the life of the deceased, how the life of those loved ones, how something in my eye, how their lives have played such a significant role in our lives, helping us to be who we are now. And we see that in the story with Joshua. God starts off, says, I'll exalt you in the sight of Israel so they may know that I'll be with you as I was with Moses. It's not that Joshua can't, kind of get out of Moses' shadow, but it's that God is reminding people of their history, seeing how God had done this in the past and how God does it again. Them crossing the Jordan River. Does it sound familiar to you at all? How these priests put a foot in the water, and the water kind of stopped, and there was dry ground for them to cross the Jordan River. I don't know how many of you have been to Jordan River before. I haven't, but it isn't a small river. It's not a trickle. It's not just like someone washing their car on the top of the alley and the water's coming down. It's a river. It's big and it's wide, and for them to cross on dry land, it must have brought back at least memories of stories of how they got to where they are, and I'm sure it does with you. And so there's a lesson there that history shouldn't be ignored, because history teaches us about ourselves, teaches us where we may be going, and teaches us about the people in our lives and their past, and how their lives have affected our lives. The whole psalm is all about that, talking about like recapping the story, recapping the Exodus story, the 40 years in the desert, and just saying like, wow, God, you're awesome. You have done so much for the people of the past. And when we see what God has done for the people in the past, then maybe we can start recognizing what God continues to do for us now. And we're in this time of pandemic still, after some odd months, and we're still kind of uncomfortable with everything. We're still kind of uneasy with how things are, especially now in BC at least. Like, we're kind of in our second wave, and the numbers are going up higher than we're really comfortable with, and we're trying to make do, and we're trying to do the best we can. But let's not forget that this isn't the first pandemic that we've ever faced, like people have ever faced. This isn't the first time that there has been drastic change in our way of life and in our way of being, the way of doing things. This isn't the first time that the human race had to kind of come together and rally up against difficulty and something that will quite honestly shape this generation, and it'll be remembered, and that we can look at history and see how they dealt with it, and know that God was there for them. And we'll look at the present and we say how we're going to deal with it, and know that God is here with us. And hopefully we can lay down the groundwork for, I don't know an eloquent way of saying this, but for our children's history, our children's history, as they look back and see like, well, this is what happened in 2020. This is how they dealt with it, and this is how God was with them. That we are in the midst of making history. I mean, every day we're in the midst of making history. And as we do that, as we look at our situations that we're in now, and as we look at the past and see what we can learn from that, may we look to the future and look to the future in hope, in knowing that God is with us now. God will continue to be with us throughout the future, and with our children and children's children, as they are reminded with how God was with us and what God has provided for us. And I think that's appropriate for All Saints Day. I think it's appropriate for the 22nd Sunday of Pentecost as well, but for All Saints Sunday, as we think of those that we loved and lost, as we remember the lessons that they've taught us, maybe not overt lessons that they sat us down and said, hey, listen to this kind of thing, but how they lived their lives, how they loved us, how we've been shaped just by who they are. That we see how God was present in their lives. We see how their faith helped them through whatever it is they've gone through. And allow that to inform us of where God is in our lives now. Inform us of how our faith can help us through our time now, and how we are just able to manage. We are able to deal with all the stuff that's going on, that we are able to carry on with strength, with poise, with God on our side. I mean, that's an amazing gift. I mean, this pandemic isn't amazing. I mean, it kind of sucks, but knowing that we aren't alone, knowing that we have God with us and we have each other. We have all of us as a community. We have the helpfulness of the internet with us, that we can remain connected, we can remain supportive, and we can remain as a community even in these times. Well, that's what I have for this week. I do hear the kids running around. I don't know if you can hear that, but hopefully it wasn't too loud and disruptive. But I am going to sign off now, and thanks for watching. Hope that I'll see you on Sunday. If not, hopefully see you next week. Take care. Peace.
Lead me to rest.